Here we are.
And we're live.
We've had some technical difficulties.
You know what?
Pre-prep.
I just want to say my teeth are purple already because we've
they?
been sampling those wines
I didn't even see
earlier.
that, but we've had some delicious wines already. So
yeah, teeth stainers. Some delicious teeth stainers. But anyway, it's Charlotte and Jessica.
here we are. Pensacola, Florida, coming to you
live. From Aragon Wine Market, located in beautiful Pensacola, Florida.
That's
and
right.
It's cold.
It has been
Y'all
cold.
don't laugh at us. For people that are already, up in the north or other places like that are used to the cold weather, we literally shut down school on Tuesday because it was cold. It was just too cold. We just couldn't get out.
And I think to some degree, I really want to if I could get on my soapbox for a little moment,
Please do.
We grew up in the South. I
Yeah.
grew up I'm a Category 3 hurricane, ain't scared.
Right.
I got this.
Yeah.
We know how to prep for that.
Yeah.
Snow and ice, we are not equipped for that. And that's because our kids still in the winter go to school in flip-flops and shorts and don't understand that they should have real shoes on.
And you have a sweater on. I have a short sleeve sweater on. I mean, we don't have the right equipment and stuff.
We are not equipped for it here.
No, we're not. But I will make fun of the fact that we closed all our schools because it was cold.
It was kind of ridiculous. It was a beautiful home day.
Government offices shut down, everything.
But
it wasn't even expected to rain or snow.
To watch the cold weather and just the moderate sun peek out of the clouds all day, it was it was comical, but at the same time, I know that we have so many friends and family members in Houston and in Dallas and in Texas.
Oh my gosh.
So many areas
So
of the
sad.
country that are really struggling right now.
It's awful.
Who knew that socialized electricity is that a thing, or whatever that is, monopolized electricity?
Yeah.
Only one company has opportunity.
What is that? It's a monopoly.
Monopoly? What? That's not a good idea.
That's why there's antitrust laws. But they apparently don't live here to, the public utilities.
I feel bad for my friends and family and neighbors and cousins.
Yeah,
and extended lovers that are in
lovers.
That didn't sound right. Extended love, extended family, lovers of life, family members that I love.
Yeah, but not to take away from the fact that there really are people suffering.
It's not funny.
They have no heat and stuff, and so it is really cold in a lot of part of the world or the United States. So we did have Mardi Gras here. I think everybody missed it. Maybe there was a few people that got to.
We missed it. Other people might
Mardi
have
Gras is a
attended.
big deal here on the Gulf Coast, and so I made some gumbo. That was my nod to Mardi Gras. But St. Patrick's Day is next. Not really a huge wine drinking holiday, more like a green beer or something like that holiday. But we do have a lot of people that will come in that like to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So
true.
We'll see.
We had a big rush on the Fitvine wines after.
Oh Lord,
the McGuire's didn't run because everybody was kind of getting fit for spring. I don't know how that goes hand in hand. Debauchery and Fitvine wine.
That's St. Patrick's Day.
There you go. That was what it was.
Yeah, and so also coming up, I would say we have some special events coming up at the store. Private events. So if there's any events that you guys want to do, reach out to Jessica because she's going to she is our event planner. She's an event planner on her own. So if you don't have an event that you want to have at the store, she still can help you with that.
I can still help you, but at the store, it's awesome, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we're hosting a birthday party.
Yeah.
This lady and her friends are going to come in, and we've paired an entire menu together with amazing selections that will be palatable to the food that she's going to be serving. It's a group of 10 people, so it fits right in our little model.
Yeah, we're doing small groups right now still. But big news is that we hope that in April, we'll be doing our in-store wine tastings again. Yes. So that'll be fun. We're probably doing them in the courtyard. If you don't know, we have a lovely courtyard right out back that we do events at. And so I think that we'll probably do the in-store wine tastings then. So how this works tonight, we will probably continue to do the virtual wine tastings in some fashion.
That's right.
And
people still ask, what's a virtual wine tasting? Like,
yeah.
how do we taste wine virtually?
Right.
Well, let me just tell you, every week we're going to announce to our customers the wines that we're going to be featuring. That way it gives you an opportunity to come into the store, pick up these beautiful bottles of wine and take them home. And you have this week. Thank you so much for your support.
Yes.
You know, going into this week, we had Blackbird Vineyards, which is the wine we've had before, but then also the AERENA, this Cabernet, which you guys have so fully supported, and we're super excited to present it to you.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
You take it home, and then this is the big thing that is huge to me. This is an evergreen component, so it gives us the opportunity to talk these amazing winemakers, these amazing reps from all over the world.
Right.
And present these beautiful wines. Maybe you catch us tonight. Maybe you don't. Maybe you see us in a few days or in a week.
Yeah,
but it's an evergreen component, and it gives us the opportunity to share the education with you and share these beautiful wines.
Yeah.
That maybe in a few days you're like, hey, we're gonna make something with this. Oh, this would be delicious. Let's pair it. And hey, we know Aragon did this wine.
Yeah, you might not have time tonight. You may be watching us later. So
who knows?
so
Maybe
awesome.
not at all. But let's go ahead and introduce some people.
On that note, we do have some very special people here tonight, and so my advice to you is please ask questions, because this is your chance to ask questions to one of the top winemakers in the world. Very well known. Pott is his name, winemaker extraordinaire, as I like to call him. We'll find out about his background. We'll talk to him about it, but please take this time, ask him questions, because you probably will never have the opportunity to do it again.
When are you going to be online with Pott to ask questions? When are you going to be online
when
with
am I?
Julie Johnson?
I'm excited.
Going to be online with Julie Johnson. When are we going to actually be at La Quinta de la Rosa and talk about these wines in Portugal? We may not again, but hopefully we'll be able to travel there. But for right now, we have them here. So do answer those questions.
Let's bring in. We've got. Well, let's start with the man himself.
The head honcho.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey. So
Hi,
nice.
Charlotte. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Oh, so excited. You can't even imagine how excited we are to see you. We'll also bring in Tammy, who is your compadre out there. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
And Michael Fix from Winebow.
Hello.
Thank you guys all for joining us.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here.
So, Mr. Pott, let us talk a little bit about your background, because I know that you are a winemaker extraordinaire and have such a wonderful, wonderful, crazy history of winemaking in Napa Valley, but it wasn't always Napa Valley. You got your start, well, maybe you got your start in California, but you also spent some time in France. Tell us a little bit about your history.
Well, I mean, my history really starts in France, because my parents took me to Paris when I was 9 years old. And the first night I was in Paris, I went to a venerable bistro and I ordered a glass of milk. And the waiter looked at me and said, "Milk is for babies." and he brought out a glass of wine. And I thought to myself, this is my ticket to adulthood here. And every kid at 9 years old wants to be an adult. So I started learning everything I could about wine.
Wow.
And France seemed to always be a part of that. And when I went to school, I first studied straight out of high school. I went to UC Davis, studied winemaking there, and then did a master's degree at the University of Burgundy. And I was told that if you knew how to grow Pinot Noir, you could grow anything. So that was the impetus behind that. But my first real job in the wine industry, besides internships and so on, was at Newton Vineyard. And that's here in St. Helena, California, in the heart of the Napa Valley. And we had two consulting winemakers working with our team that was led by John Kongsgaard, the great winemaker from Napa. And they were Dominique Lefond of Domaine Camp Lefond and Michel Roland. And Michel was just sort of starting his consulting career at that time and was only consulting for two wineries in Napa Valley. And now he's consulting for 100 wineries in 20 different countries. But so he had Simi and he had Newton, and he would get extremely bored during the time that he was here. He was here for 3 weeks every time he would come out, and we would use him for a week, and then I would bring him over to my house because his English was terrible. And I would introduce him to friends that spoke French and have great dinners with him and so on. And so we got to know each other quite well. And one day I asked him if he could find me a job working back in France. And he said, I will try. And next thing I know, a week later, he called me up and said, I have the perfect job for you. And that perfect job, I didn't realize, was the winemaking position at Chateau Trollon-Mondot in Saint-Emilion. At the time, it was a Grand Cru Classé. It's now a Premier Grand Cru Classé. So it was a little outside my pay grade, but because Michel had suggested that I was the guy to do the job, they hired me immediately, and I, as they say, faked it until I made it.
How long did you spend? How long did you spend there?
I spent 6 years in Saint-Emilion. Yeah,
that's nice. So you really spent a lot of time in the Bordeaux area, huh?
Yeah, a great deal of time.
You know, when I went there, I was so surprised that it's a real city. I just imagined it, you know, more just you know, wineries and, you know, not a real city, but it's definitely a city as well.
You know, it's only, I think it's only recently become that way. And it started really in the 90s, that transformation to the beautiful city that it is now, but it was not always so beautiful. And now it's
a clutch. And do you remember the summer that everybody was dying because it was so hot? They had a heat wave, and anyway, I burned out.
2003. Yeah, 2003.
They remember. Look at them.
I know. Yes, I wouldn't remember the year, but I will now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, and then at some point you went back to Napa.
Yeah, so I returned to Napa, but I took a job working for Beringer, doing all of their overseas winemaking operations. So at the time they had projects in Italy, France, Chile, and Argentina, and I was constantly flying around on planes going between those places and using my language skills. I think they thought when they put this job out in a classified ad that no one would apply because they were looking for a winemaker that spoke French, Spanish, and Italian.
Wow. Was it really a classified ad?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
I'll have to start watching those classified ads.
Right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Even more humorous, my mother sent in my resume because I was living in France, and so my mother wanted me to come back home and send my resume there.
So when did you move back to the States?
So I moved back in 1998.
Okay. So you've been back a good while.
Yeah. And then, that was planes all the time until 2004 when I took the job at Quintessa as the winemaker general manager there. And then in 2007, I decided to start consulting for other wineries and then making my own wine.
I love Quintessa. I want to say it was probably around that time period that I visited there for the first time. It's such a beautiful place. And I might have crossed your path. Who knows?
I love it, yeah. If you had visited during that time, I was there for 2 years after that, as well as the as a consulting winemaker. They were my first consulting client.
Ah, so nice. And so that's the first time I ever heard about biodynamic wines. I'd never heard that term before, so it's kind of neat.
Yeah, and that was the second property that I fully converted. The first was Le Tour Figeac.
Okay, that's neat. So you did that conversion to biodynamic?
Well, I mean, I did it alone. No, we had a lot of people working on the project, and I had a lot of other duties. But we had a terrific vineyard manager that I worked super closely with to make the transition. And also the wife of the owner, Valeria, is very instrumental in the vineyards there.
Yeah, that's so neat. So tell us a little bit about the first wine that we're drinking tonight. We're going to show the bottle. So I was telling Tammy earlier that I'm on a wine lovers Facebook page, and there are people that are like, well, you can't buy a good bottle of Cab under $40. They're like, you have to go above that. And I'm always the one that's like, you snobs. Of course you can. And I'm actually going to do a post later on tonight and say, for all those looking and for all those who think you can't, try this one. So tell us a little bit about this. Is from North Coast of California.
Well, just to add to your story, there was a recent story in the Wall Street Journal by Letty Teague about value wines, and the AERENA was included in that story.
Nice.
Oh, of course, I can see. I mean, it
should be
fabulous.
I loved the coup d'etat that it says that it's inspired by the Teddy Roosevelt speech, "The Man in the Arena." And I on Mondays I write our newsletters and I send it out to our customers, and I am not gonna lie, I bought a bottle of this just to try, because I hadn't actually done that before, where I'm consuming it and writing and trying to absorb it, which I feel like I should do more often. Maybe, but that's 2 bottles in a week, so I don't know. But it was so at $16 a bottle, to be as full and like round and delicious and complex as it was, like it surprised me. But I loved the whole aspect of man in the arena, like showing up every day for who you are as a person, like all the little like coup d'etats that it said behind it, and then also the artist. So I mean, some of the history behind it of what gave you that inspiration to bring you to, I don't know, the motivation of the wine.
Well, it's extraordinary because Roosevelt goes on a trip all over Europe in 1910, and he gives this speech in the Sorbonne. I mean, and I've been in this room. I saw Jacques Derrida speak in this same room, and it's a powerful room. This massive lecture hall at the Sorbonne, and which is, I mean, not very far from the Les Arènes de Lutèce, which is the Roman arena in Paris that still stands, barely. But anyway, he just wows the crowd by giving this speech, and mainly, pointing it towards the cynics that are so uptight about people trying to change the world, and how the little man can do stuff to change the world. And I think it's a real victory for us humans. And I think it was the French really absorbed it. You see some of the commentary of people that were at the speech, and people were just blown away by this speech. And I think it's a perfect idea for this wine. It's for all of those people that try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny is that, I guess it's called lean in.
Yeah.
And that is something that Jessica uses a lot. So that's kind of neat.
I say that phrase all the time. And quite honestly, after 10 years of corporate sales, leaning into my discomfort was something that my CEO at my former company said all the time. And so leaning in, I lean into things and I use that. I do.
Yeah, I
use
know. I
that
was like, this
phrase
is just
often.
this wine. I'm pretty
This
sure.
is my wine because I lean into things of comfort and discomfort to explore them and understand them and be better because of it. And so that's way deep on my personal level, but like I love that, like as soon as it was like lean in, I was like,
I know.
this is something that is a normal part of my phrasing. So it's so funny that you mentioned
Yeah,
that.
I know. I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Can we hear you?
Henry,
So go and Google Jacques Derrida, and then you won't feel as weird about that.
Fix, I want you to say that again, but like we're struggling to hear you. So I want you to unmute yourself, or we were having some tech issues. So say that again.
I don't know if you can hear me now, but
No.
I don't know what's going on. It's not working.
He's not.
Well,
I think maybe your microphone is.
Hold on.
there you go.
Try it
Try it
again.
now.
The guest has us muted.
Oh.
Try again. You're muted on your end.
Well,
I think it might be in your earpiece.
Paraphrase what he
doesn't
said.
have a microphone
It was
in it.
beautiful.
No. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's okay.
Unplug the headphones and plug them back in.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
well, that's all right.
Well, yes to whatever Fix said. I will look it up and I will explore that option of education and know that I'm not alone in my thoughts.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yes. You're
Oh. The wonders of Google. I was going to say, if you're nervous about talking about leaning in and you think that's too deep, there's nothing deeper about a winemaker referencing Jacques Derrida when it comes to wine. As a person who has studied English in higher education as a master's degree, I can tell you right now, that's pretty deep. So don't feel bad, Jessica. Jacques Derrida is real deep.
That will be the last time I talk about Jacques Derrida or deconstructionism or anything.
No, Aaron, please, if you're on a Zoom call with somebody in Brooklyn who's 35 years old and is running a restaurant, that's going to be fine. You're going to be fine.
So I want to talk a little bit about the place where this wine comes from.
Yes,
Because
please.
it actually comes from a place, which is hard to believe in this price range.
Yeah.
And really, that's what I'm all about, and that's what Blackbird is all about. And the place is amazing, and it wasn't a place that I ever thought that we would be interested to go make wine. But the opportunity presented itself, and we went north of Napa County to a place called Lake County.
Yeah.
And there is a series of wonderful hillside vineyards, and they're all on the slopes of Lake Canocti, or excuse me, Mount Canocti. And Mount Canocti is 4,304 feet. And these vineyards are on the side of this mountain, so at about 2,400 feet in altitude, and overlooking Clear Lake, which is a lake that's been in the same place for 480,000 years.
Wow. That's
it's
crazy.
one of the oldest lakes in North America, verified.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And then Mount Canocti itself is a volcano. And when we talk about volcanic eruptions and volcanic soils, you usually don't think of the volcanic eruptions as being sort of current, except when we're talking about Mount Etna in Sicily.
Right.
And this volcano last erupted 11,000 years ago. So it's pretty recent geological formations there, and it's this incredibly red, iron-rich soil a lot of basaltic rock in there, and then peppered with obsidian all over it.
Say that peppered with what?
With obsidian, this black volcanic rock that's looks like glass. In fact, there's a road called Glass Mountain Road here, but as well a road called Bottle Road. That's because of all the obsidian on the road up there. And so it's a vineyard that I first saw in December, and there was snow all over the vineyard. I mean, from all the way down to the entrance, the lowest entrance in the vineyard, and then quite thick at the top. So it was a very, very unusual for us to see snow even in December in that part of the year.
Certain. Yeah.
And this vineyard is a great Cabernet vineyard, and it's reasonably priced because the vineyard just hasn't had the track record, and hasn't had the track record that a vineyard in Napa Valley would have.
Well, I was going to say it's not Napa,
and it's a very different climate than Napa Valley. I mean, it's quite a bit warmer.
What would be the closest city that we, normal folk would know that it's close to?
I mean, Napa.
Nowhere. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's kind of a funny there were a bunch of resorts built around this lake years ago. And there are all these funny little resort towns with names like Nice. And, so they all have names from Europe, but pronounced slightly differently.
Right. Well, we're right near Louisiana, so we got a lot of that here. It's not pronounced exactly how they would in France.
Right.
That's cool, though. So you came across this vineyard.
Yeah, and we don't often work with. There's a very famous grape grower, Andy Beckstoffer, who owns half of Napa Valley, and we don't often work with Andy on a lot of projects. But this one interested me because of where the vineyard was located and the farming of that vineyard, and so. We decided to go for it and create this wine from that vineyard. And I'm very proud to say that this is a category that's really tough to make wines in. And most of the wines that you have in this category have a lot of other things in them besides grapes.
Right.
And we have produced this wine without using anything but grapes and elemental sulfur. So it's just wine. I mean,
that's nice. Yeah.
That's it. There's no red dye number 7,000 or guar gum or stuff like that. It's all wine.
Yeah, for sure. That's somewhat rare these days in a lot of wines, but we won't name names. But so as far as like the tasting notes on this, I get kind of an old worldy kind of vibe from it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
I think you're right. I think it's not afraid to show the sort of savory side of Cabernet Sauvignon, which I find appealing. Kind of that fennel character that you find.
I definitely pick up some of the herbaceous.
I just wrote down savory side. I mean, that's an awesome term that I'm going to probably use. I'm going to rip it off from Aaron Pott.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of wonderful fruit elements as well. The blackberry, the black currant in there, and the richness of the wine is much greater than anything I think you would see in this category as well.
So one of the things that, as we've almost been doing these virtual wine tastings for a year, believe it or not, but one of the themes, there's been several themes that have come out, but one of my personal themes has been that we need to save our wines, let them age a little, enjoy, drink them now, but also put some away, because you really can't buy age on a wine. You have to do that yourself. So what do you think about the ageability on this wine right here? Because to me, it seems like it would definitely be one that I could put in my cellar and enjoy in a year, 2 years, maybe longer.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go beyond 3 years from now. I think it's something that's going to give you a lot of immediate pleasure. I don't think it's something that's going to gain a great deal with long-term aging.
Unlike some of the Blackbird wines, I think are.
Unlike some of the Blackbird wines, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a Paramore in my cellar from this year, whatever the current release was this year. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, and you can give me some advice on that one. But yeah, I mean, and people, especially in this price point, you want something that is approachable right now and that you can open and drink with your friends. What about decanting? Oh, is Aaron? Oh,
I'm having trouble.
yeah. Come on,
Okay,
come back to us.
Can you hear me?
Come back to us.
Ah, I'm back.
Yay!
Okay, sorry,
I
I
love your
missed that last comment, but
So what about decanting this?
What about
maybe?
decanting? Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I think in this case the decanting will open it up. It's when I opened my bottle, it was just slightly reductive, which is usual for a wine under cork that's been in bottle for a little while. So I think just to open it up, give it a little life. I think that's a great idea.
And how long would you decant this one?
I think at this stage, it's just that air from the decanting will open it up. I don't think it needs a great deal of time. Just a little air from opening up.
Yeah, I'm like one of those that I rarely put something in an actual decanter because I kind of like to watch it evolve in my glass over the night. So yeah, but you can always decant.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm the same way that it's more interesting for me to see it evolving over time than to get it right to where I want it.
Right.
But it's more of a study for me.
I like to get the air in it and have it be pretty for the presentation. So
Tammy's polar opposite.
Well, no,
I love that.
I feel like there's two types of people, Tammy.
Yeah.
There are people that do like to put it in a decanter, and I mean, I'm not saying that's a wrong because I like that too. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. But
I often speak about the fact that I'm like the quote unquote novice in the group, even though I have some knowledge in wine. For me, I like to see what it should be pretty immediately because I don't have a wealth of knowledge to understand what it could be, if that makes sense. So like if it's been decanted and it's opened up and I taste it, I'm like, oh, I get it. But then sometimes when it's still, it needs that opportunity to open up, I don't really understand what it could be because that's just if that makes sense. That may not make sense at all.
you probably just drink it too fast.
I probably drink it too fast. But
that's not a bad thing.
For my point of just that, I drink it too fast. I think we all, respectfully as Americans, I think we do everything too fast.
Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest lessons I learned from traveling and spending a week in Rome was just absorbing and watching Italians eat a meal.
Right.
And that my little group of American girlfriends, like in an hour, we're like, oh, we're done. And they had not even begun to experience their night together as friends, as a community, and so I think that's something that is a huge learning curve for me, and it maybe is a good point to even just bring up, like, slow down.
I call it out Frenching the French. Like you sit down in a restaurant and you're like, okay, where are they in this meal? Like, can I out French the French? I'm just gonna take my time, enjoy. Yeah, exactly.
I want to learn how
try
to
it sometime.
out French the French, and my objective, and one of my biggest learning curves, I think, in that of traveling to Rome that year was slow down.
Yeah, I like that.
Like, slow down, allow it to open up. And you're right, I drank it too fast. But normally, you know, to not give that opportunity for decanting, but just to let it marinate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like don't let your decanting be an ostentatious display of your wine. Make it more utilitarian. You know, you can get some decanters that are literally almost the shape of a 750 milliliter bottle. And in a way that's, you know, that doesn't make the decanter the centerpiece of what you're doing. It makes a decanter a device. And that's kind of almost something that's anti what we're used to with decanting. It's like we put this big duck decanter out and we do all this fancy stuff. And sometimes it's fun to just go back to the utilitarian aspect of it and not worry about how it looks on a table or on a counter. You know what I mean? That's I think that's really crucial.
Counterpoint, you can do both. You can have it be beautiful and
She's my
utilitarian.
homegirl, by the way.
That is what I want. I want the presentation. I want it to be beautiful and I want it to be tasty.
Yes.
That's just
Do
me.
you have one of the three duck decanter things that? Yeah, of course she does. I know. I don't. Oh gosh.
Hey, Tammy, I'm trying to be a salesperson here. I'm trying to appeal to the masses. Come on now.
It can be
I like-
both, though.
I like-
It can be beautiful and presentational and utilitarian.
No, for sure.
I think the biggest thing about wine for me, outside of being delicious, is that it's communal.
Absolutely.
100%.
Sharing the experience. And if you can do it for under $20, like with AERENA, or under, you know, 50 with Arise, and you can have an amazing experience. It's tasty, it's beautiful, it's communal. So yeah, you know what? If you just want to pop the cork and drink it, I'm not judging.
No,
I think at the end of the day, we have to think about wine in that it was discovered by some person eating rotten grapes. And
right.
that person got drunk and experienced a transformation in their lives and came back the next day to get more. And then started making it themselves. And so it started initially from the experience and from the feeling that it created.
I mean, wouldn't you have loved to have been there? How did that
Yeah.
go down? I just would curious. So as far as the AERENA, we always like to talk because we're always hungry about this time of the night. What would you, Aaron? Is there a favorite meal, or Tammy? You guys, what would you pair with the AERENA?
I think this is one that can go with a lot of different meat and poultry, especially. I mean, I like this with fried chicken, to tell you the truth. It's
Yeah, we're having that tomorrow night at our
very simple, very good. It's enhances the wine and the food. I think it's a great
Awesome.
combination.
Making a note.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I like that.
The AERENA though to me was, and Felicia, thanks so much. We're so happy that you continue to join us for these discussions.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You definitely followed us
and Carol's
yeah,
tuning in
Carol
tonight
too.
as well.
We're happy that you're here to join us. You know, I love, this is something to me is a no-brainer for pizza, which I know is probably an easy go-to for red wine, but at the same time, like we have some pretty badass pizza joints in Pensacola, so Graffiti and some of the other ones that you know obviously we'll mention, but I mean this would be a no-brainer for a couple of the pizzas that we brought for our training.
Oh yeah, I made a chuck roast Monday night, Tuesday night. I mean, and that would be a great. So I actually drink bubbles with my chuck roast, but just goes to show bubbles goes with everything. But I think probably this would have been a better pairing. So let's move on to the Blackbird because this is your real pet project, right? The Blackbird. Arise.
Yes.
Arise.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Aaron, are you still with us?
I'm still with you. I'm going in and out.
I know. I felt like we were.
I was going to add to your chuck roast Cheetos. I love Cheetos and champagne, I have to say.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm a
It's
Cheetos
a
fan.
guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
I have to say too, I see Aaron pouring the wine. I think we did a meeting with Aaron, Winebow, Florida did maybe about, who knows when it was. It's COVID times. Nobody knows what time is anymore, but might have been about 6 months ago. And I have to commend Aaron for his sprightliness on California time. I think it was our time, 9 a.m. or 8 a.m., something like that.
Oh, wow.
And now we're in the Panhandle, so we're on Central Time, so it confuses everybody. But he was one of the few winemakers who was that we've done these meetings with, who was actually drinking the wine at whatever time it was, 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. his time. I had another winemaker, I won't say who, but they were like, it's too early for us. And I went, you make wine for a living. What do you mean it's too early for you to be tasting wine? Aren't you supposed to be tasting wine all the time? Come on.
Yeah, for real. You're my boy, Blue.
So I give Aaron props for drinking, tasting his wine with us at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. California time, and I appreciate that, and also his liveliness, which sometimes doesn't always happen at 6 a.m. on Zoom calls. So, thank you, Aaron.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's part of my job. Most of the time, I am tasting at 7 a.m. So it doesn't seem odd
Right.
to be tasting.
Right?
wine.
Yeah, it's not odd to Albert Villain. I mean, it's not odd to those guys.
So I love the Blackbird label. How did you come up with the idea of the name Blackbird?
So Blackbird, it came from the name of the vineyard, and this is kind of a controversial subject. So
We love controversy.
Dun, dun, dun.
the word in French for a blackbird is merle, M-E-R-L-E. The word in Occitan, which is now Catalan, or the language that they spoke in southern France before about 1400, and Occitan is where we get the name Languedoc, which means the tongue of Oc, and Oc was the word for yes in French, as opposed to Languedoc, which oi was how they pronounced oui at the time. So Languedoc in the north would have been French, and Languedoc would have been Occitan. So the word in Occitan, Merlot, M-E-R-L-A-U, means the blackbird. And so people in southwestern France saw these black clusters and said Merlot, because Merlot on the vine, it looks very black. It's blacker than Cabernet Sauvignon, blacker than Cabernet Franc. You can always spot it in Vineyard because it's so dark. And it doesn't produce a darker wine, but it seems very dark on the vine. So the word came to call this vineyard Blackbird Vineyards when it was planted in 1997 through all Merlot. And then when we started the wine brand in 2003, we decided to use the name Blackbird for the wine brand as well.
Well, I like that. I'm a huge fan of the crow as a blackbird, and it does remind me of crows on the front. I don't know if that was intentional or just blackbirds in general, but I'm a big fan of that. And
for me, I connected with, and I didn't, it's completely unrelated in every way, but to me, when we talked about doing this wine last week, it was Black History Month, and Blackbird singing The Dead of Night, Beatles song, immediately sung out to me, which doesn't have any connection whatsoever. But it spoke to the Arkansas 9, right? Which is the 9 beautiful children that faced atrocity that is of civil rights, trying to, at the time of segregation, be given access to a school. And I just thought that was so beautiful. So you're showing that bottle. Is there a connection, or was there?
Jessica,
something that
yes.
was called? Okay, got
Jessica,
awesome.
there is a
because
connection.
I literally wrote a whole newsletter wrapped around a Beatles lyric that I wasn't sure if it had any connection, but my God, that lyric speaks to me. And so you were only waiting for this moment to arise. And so I'm so glad that I'm not just.
Yeah,
Jessica.
you nailed it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I love the, you know, we didn't know until recently that Paul McCartney wrote the song because of this
Right.
story, and it's a fantastic story. But the label is meant to be blackbirds sitting on wires, and it's actually musical notation.
Yeah. Okay.
Musical notes to "You were only waiting for this moment to arise" as it goes up.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I
So it's the musical notation to the very song you were talking about.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very clever.
Blackbird singing in the
Yeah,
night.
I love
It's
that.
so beautiful.
Yeah, pretty
And
voice.
the story, Paul McCartney, they actually, from London, didn't really realize the impact the song would have, but were empowered by the civil rights movement. And as February is Black History Month, I thought it was apropos that we are talking about this, even though I don't think we really intended it to be. But it's
No, but
just
how
like,
nice was
how
it? A good
beautiful that
connection.
the
The
connection
universe
is
made
there,
it happen.
which is kind of our story. So I love that. You know, but to give an opportunity to showcase something like that, and this wine is so beautiful because you know, I don't, it's a blend, so it has so many different components in it, and it's softer than what I thought it would be when I opened the bottle. It was rounder and I don't know if wholesome is a like word you could use in wine, but it was like, it was so easy and approachable and delicious and round.
So it's 2016.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's got that couple of years of age on it.
Yeah. So I mean that it's always nice to have a little age as my theme.
Charlotte
my
helps
theme.
me when I get lost in my thought process sometimes. I don't know what I'm doing. This is where it's
It's
going.
2016. Is 2017 out yet or?
It's not out yet. It will be released at the end of the year, I believe.
Okay, so
Tammy's probably a better person to
so
ask
this is
that.
current vintage, and so I mean, this is a very nice, easy drinking, but yet complex wine. Tell us about the varieties that are the varietals that are in it.
So it's Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Cabernet Franc. It's 58% Merlot. It's 32% Cabernet Franc, and the rest is Cabernet Sauvignon, 10% Cabernet Sauvignon.
Are most of the Blackbird wines Merlot dominant?
Well, it used to be that our only wine was the illustration, and that was almost all Merlot. At the early days, it was 100% Merlot. And then when I came on board, we created Paramour, which is more Cabernet Franc. And then later we created Contrarian, which is Cabernet Sauvignon dominant. So it depends. Arise is generally a blend of Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Cabernet Sauvignon. And
but Aaron, is this like, since this has more Merlot, does this kind of feel to you like your right bank roots a little bit more so than the other wines? I mean, in a way, I mean, does this kind of harken back to that for you, like when you think about it and when you talk about it or taste it? I mean, it would seem obvious to some, but I don't know if that's kind of the way you feel.
Tammy, what are your thoughts?
We lost him for a little bit. Oh wait, are you back? Okay, good.
I definitely think it has a lot of right bank influence. I mean, I think you can't avoid that with working with Merlot and especially with Merlot because it's so unique to the right bank. But I think Cabernet Franc is a variety that has a lot of different locations where it is interesting. And I mean, if we really look at Cabernet Franc's contribution to the right bank, it's relatively small. It's kind of a square kilometer in the middle of Pomerol and the edge of Saint-Emilion, and a couple of odd chateaux here and there. So it's not a huge component of the right bank. And you look at the wines of Saumur and Chinon and so on, and those are have much more prevalent Cabernet Franc in them. But we always revert back to the right bank when we think of Merlot, and I think there's a reason for that, and I think it's because we hadn't found great places to grow Merlot in this country, and suddenly we have all of these sites that originally were for other varieties that we started planting Merlot in, that are good sites for Merlot, that are suddenly making a name for Merlot in California. And so it's most of the sites we work with Merlot, it's a very sensitive variety to site, as is Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Franc maybe even more so, but most of the sites we work for have only been Merlot sites since the early 90s, and so we're just starting to see what these sites can do.
Sure.
Right. That's interesting. Do you have you done one of your blends with all 5 of the Bordeaux blends?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we hadn't had a lot of Petit Verdot or Malbec in our world, but we found 2 vineyards that that have both varieties, that are older vine vineyards that I really love. So we have included all 5 in blends.
Are those in Napa as well?
Yes, they are in Napa as well.
Yeah, I'm
a big fan of Malbec.
What's that?
I really like Malbec, and it's hard to find good Malbec anywhere, mainly because the clonal material is pretty bad.
I'm a huge Petit Verdot fan, so if you've ever, that's always going to be my go-to. I always feel like I feel like I can taste it, and even if it's 1%, I'm like, I can taste it.
Me too. I feel like I
Really?
can identify it. I do. I love Petit Verdot so much, and it has this like violet. There's something about it that I can always find in the wine. I'm like, oh,
You guys have become spirit animals.
I know. I always say that every time. I'm like, it's like purple. It's like drinking violet.
It's like purple. It's like violet. Yes. It's like I can see it in the wine now.
Totally.
Well, I can't remember who it was, but it might have been one of the Rothschilds, and don't quote me on this, but they were saying that you only have 1% Petit Verdot in your wine. It was a Pauillac or something like that. Again, don't quote me on this, but they said, how can that make a difference? And they said, you'd know it if it wasn't there. And I think that was really illustrated a lot about the power of some of these blending grapes, and why when we say that a wine is blended or there's a blend of different grapes, we really need to look at how important it is that we are blending these grapes together. Not that a blend is somehow some separate category, but that it is indicative of a lot of the ways that we've done wine for thousands of years, that we've kind of had to bring grapes in that had color or had more tannin or had more acid or whatever. I mean, it's not a drawback for the wine. And then this wine is, it speaks for itself as to the power of being able to manage those different percentages. I would ask Aaron also, not to get too nerdy since we don't have that much time, but what's the oak sort of outlook here on these wines? Because there's oak, but it's not it doesn't taste like you're licking a barbecue rib that had oak chips laid on it. So
okay, we're about to get really nerdy. When I was working in France, I worked with a lot of coopers and worked with them firsthand. Here in California, you get barrels delivered, they come via container. You don't have any interaction with the cooper. The first day I received barrels at Trollon-Mondot, the barrels were delivered by a guy who had clearly was a cooper. He had one right hand that was bigger than his left hand. And, his right hand was like that big and his left arm was about that big. So you could clearly see he was constantly coopering. After a while, I was talking to this guy about how much I loved the barrels that he was delivering. And I really wanted to visit the cooperage and visit the cooper himself. And he said, well, I am Pierre Darnajou, the cooper.
Wow.
And you are meeting me. And that started a lot of collaborations with coopers, including we first started by bringing wood that was selected by the cooper's wood selection guy, which is called a mérandier. A mérin is a proto-stave, and that's how they stack wood in mérin. And he is the guy that goes to the forest, finds the trees that will become the stave wood, and then cuts it into these mérins and stacks it in his yard. And so we started stacking the wood at the yard at Trollondeau and also Le Tour Figeac. And then we started coopering the barrels with the cooper. So designing a toasting system and a barrel formation system that worked well with the wines that we were working with. So it was generally what we were doing was a very light toast, but over a fire for a long period of time. So the toast was very penetrating, but wasn't all that strong, wasn't blistering the wood. And and that was the toasting method we came up with. We also did different aging regimes and liked best the 3-year aged wood. So what I started to do when I came back to the US was to continue working with these cooperages and continue selecting the wood that would go into our barrels. So we work with one mérandier, a guy named Jean-Louis Bossuet, who is also a cooper himself, and he gives wood to 2 other coopers that we work with that we have stored on his property. And this is the first year in the last 14 years that I haven't been over to France to check in on the wood supply and to select the wood that will go into those stacks for the future. And I had to do a very uncomfortable, due to French technology, Zoom call.
Oh yeah.
In order to make that happen.
Well, I mean, and I mean, this just goes to show, I mean, like what you're talking about right now, I think it means, it just goes to show how much goes into winemaking, because people just think what it's, rock star lifestyle.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Rock star lifestyle. And it's definitely a lot of, picking the barrels,
like walking the fields.
It's
Work.
a lot of farming.
Work.
It's a lot of misses and a lot of like checks and balances before you get to a level of success, for sure.
Before we move on, because I know we're getting out of time, but tell us your tasting notes on the Arise, please.
I mean, what I love about this wine that just jumps out at me is that Merlot aroma. You get the wonderful floral characters of Merlot. You get that iris character. There's a real kind of black licorice, and I think that's really coming from the Cabernet Sauvignon. But the blueberry from the Cabernet Franc pops out at me. The cedar aroma that's coming from both the Cabernet Franc and a little bit the wood character as well. And that there's wonderful, like fresh tobacco smell. Like a tobacco, cigar in a cigar box kind of character.
That's nice.
This is probably one of the first ones I feel like we featured in a year that the first forward fruit note was blueberry.
But not like sweet. It's like a dark berry.
Sweet.
Yeah. And then one of the things I always describe it as is integrated. which is like such a used word in our industry, but it's so integrated and so like it's just like you get all these different notes at one time, but they all work in harmony. And I think, and I just call it kind of dead sexy. This is like one of my favorite.
Dead sexy.
Dead sexy.
Yes. Well,
I think
I believe that should be on the text sheet, really.
Quoted on the show, so that would be appropriate. But yeah, it's blueberry. It is dead sexy. It's just deep and delicious and herbaceous and there.
And Tammy had her little gambit, so I had to bring my little Francois.
Oh wow. Timmy, come on.
Oh, who you got, Aaron?
It's gonna be tough.
So Tammy, quick question. Oh my goodness.
There he
Who's
is.
that?
That's Timmy.
Oh, boobala.
He's like,
Is that a Ridgeback?
He's like,
I don't know what he is. He has a ridgy back, but only on occasion.
So
I think he's more boxer.
everybody needs a dog. Where's your dog, Fix? Tammy,
I
so my
know.
quick question before we let you go, because I know we're getting low on time, but Petit Verdot is my favorite red grape. What is your favorite white grape? And if it's the same one, I'm gonna die.
Okay, so this is my current one. I'm currently obsessed with Albarino.
Oh, I love AERENA too.
Yeah, right now I can't get enough of it. It's inexpensive. It's easy to drink. I also am a big Arnaise fan or Toronto's fan in the summer when it's like 100 degrees.
So you're getting closer to my favorite.
Okay, what's yours?
Viognier.
Oh, I love Viognier. Oh my God. So can I tell you, when I was doing my SOM test, like back in 2004, Viognier was my nemesis. If I didn't know what a white wine was, it was Viognier. I'd be like, okay, it's not Chardonnay. It's not that. I would be spinning out and I'd be like, it's Viognier.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I have a half acre of
Viognier, but it's my nemesis.
My estate vineyard, I have a half acre of Viognier planted, and I make it ferment it and age it in a clay amphora, and it's just fabulous.
And so do you just keep it for yourself?
No, it gets sold under my Pott wine label.
Oh, let me make a little note.
noted.
Stingy.
This is our
I've made quite some moves tonight, so with the
hashtag of a few.
I don't have any pot wines, Charlotte. So just so you know, I don't have any pot wines. I mean, I do, but I don't. It's not on the pot wine label.
So the pot wines, are they distributed in Florida, or are they?
They are. I don't know that I'm allowed to say anything about them.
No, I can do the research myself.
I'll rat you out.
Well, you guys, thank you so much. I mean, it was wonderful. I mean, Aaron Pott was like, when I heard you were coming on, I was like a little blushed, a little like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I mean, because it's pretty impressive. And you probably don't think of yourself like that because you're super cool, but we think of you like that. So we really appreciate you joining us.
AERENA on with us this week was a big deal for our customers, and we're thankful that
I tried so hard not to say that.
I'm going to say it. It happens.
I hear it from my daughters every day. So
Is that right? Oh, that's awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get out Joe guys' way. Hopefully we can all travel soon. If you're not coming this way, we'll come that way, and we'll maybe meet up again soon.
yeah, let's meet up in my Viognier vineyard. I'd love to.
No, I'm already there.
I'd love to show you around.
We're there.
That's awesome. Yes, of course. Thank you guys again.
Thank you so much for your time, Aaron. Absolutely. And Tammy, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. And thank you
definitely.
for fixing this up. Yes, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oops.
I removed.
I
should have left Fix. Fix, come back.
Fix is
Hello,
back.
love.
How cool was that?
I didn't leave.
Like, I was like one of those starstruck kind of ones where, I mean, Julie Johnson was that way as well, but like Aaron Pott to me is like, So, so it was pretty neat that I actually made it through that whole
You did.
thing without embarrassing myself too much. But
It's amazing to me as well because, like, as a novice, like I often talk about, but I mean, it's so cool to like talk to somebody and I'm like, wait a second, this is a legacy. This is someone that is,
Yeah, it's pretty important.
you know, pretty important in the world, and so it's amazing.
At least in the wine community. So
that's what I mean. In the
Yeah.
in the wine world, it's amazing to hear
Yeah.
that direct, like their growth of their career and everything.
it's so interesting.
Yeah.
So we're running over a little. So
We are running over,
let's
and we're
first
running
all
out of
talk
battery
about,
also.
yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about next week because you guys need to come out and get these wines. They're
That's
the
right.
Della Terra wines. Fix, tell us a little bit. They're Italian wines. We've had the Vietti wines featured before, but we're going to do a specific one. Tell us about the wines for next week.
Yeah, so we have Della Terra, Michael from Della Terra, who lives in Florida, who's going to come on and talk to us about these wines. I don't know that we did a Vietti wine before, but
We have. We've done Gigi Bosco before.
different winemaker, but that's okay. So you know, it's a winery that we've had in the store here for a long time. We've had their Moscato here, which is I think the best Moscato you can buy.
Everybody
Their Arnaz,
loves
and then
that.
also
Absolutely.
the Perbacco. So we're gonna do the Vietti Perbacco, which is a Langhe Nebbiolo. So if people love Barolo, if they love Barbaresco, but they want to try with us a bottle that is significantly less expensive than a bottle of Barolo or a bottle of Barbaresco, this is one of the best-selling bottles of that kind in the United States, and it's fantastic. And so we're going to talk about that, and then we're also going to talk about a little lesser-known Italian white wine called Gavi or Gavi di Gavi, which would be the area in which it's grown, also from Piedmont. So we're going to have an evening in Piedmont. We're going to have a white and a red.
I do too.
And so I would say, you know, go to Troubadour and pick up some to-goes with some truffles on it, or go to Angelina's and pick up some pasta with truffles on it, because truffles are integral in Piemonte food. And grab that and grab these wines. And okay, everybody, they left. Sorry. You're only here with me. You're stuck with me. So yeah, we got some cool wines for you. You got to come in and pick them up. And I'm going to be here, so you should be here too. And Jessica.
Is it still there? So we had some technical difficulties and the laptop died, but we're still here. And we would sure love for you to come in and buy those wines next week. We're super sorry about that. But yeah, we have the Gravi and the Vietti available in the store. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.